Malchezaar's imp, it's more resilient. If one of them can get Keleseth, however, then all of that analysis goes out of the window, and suddenly one of these teams will be massively ahead because of those stat buffs.
The Zoo Warlock also has significantly greater late game if it can get to the Blood Reaver Gul'dan turn. If the Zoo can drop down Gul'dan, get some Doom Guards back, Despicable Dreadlord, any of these big threats, then the Rogue will struggle to keep up. The problem is, it's very, very tricky for the Zoo to actually get there. We've not seen Gul'dan played much at all from Zoo in this tournament, as Zixo pulls Prince Keleseth. Okay, it's kind of a good start, but also kind of a bad start, because there is the patches.
He's got the Keleseth, that's phenomenal. Means that every minion that he draws from now on will be buffed +1/+1 after Keleseth comes down. But the biggest payoff from that Keleseth, and you saw him keep the South Sea Captain in the hand while throwing away 1-drops, it is that South Sea Captain into the patches for such a clean clear on whatever it is Mitsuhide can put down before turn 3. So, some highs and lows already in this match, but ultimately Zixo's going to be pretty happy about this one because you'd rather have Keleseth and patches than neither Keleseth nor patches.
The tension in the water cube tonight is...
It's palpable.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite astonishing. Hearing the sound coming from the crowd as Keleseth was drawn. I just choked because of the crowd, how loud they were in the background. This is almost 3 full weeks of playing Hearthstone day after day after day. This whole huge tournament taking place in such a short space of time. This is so important for these guys.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting to use your mental capacity to the fullest to play this game day in and day out. But these guys have done it. And now they are here, and all of that hard work, all of that stress, they just need to put that behind them and just remember that this is what they do best. This is what they came here to do. They're about to achieve their ultimate goal. Now they just got to play a game. And Mitsuhide's opening hand was a little bit unfortunate. It wasn't looking too great, but with that backstab pickup, and then he can go ahead and use that in combination with the SI7 agent to get some really efficient clears here on Zixo's board. So Mitsuhide's hand starting to look up a little bit, whereas Zixo is going to get stronger now throughout the course of the game because, as you said, Falk, the Warlock late game is just a bit stronger than the Rogue if you can hit those really strong demon turns, potentially even a Blood Reaver Gul'dan later on. And then, of course, Zixo's also going to have the added bonus of the Keleseth buffs.
Even the Tar Creeper is looking pretty good here. Yeah, there it is from where I'm sitting. It trades very nicely with the board, or at least prevents Zixo's attacks from getting in. And there's no huge punish that Zixo can pick up to counter it. Yeah, okay, Patches does allow the Flame Imp to trade, but the Flame Imp is still trading in. And with its 4/3 body, that's a big sacrifice to make.
Well, that's the thing. If Zixo on turn 3 were to play down the best card in his deck, which would be the South Sea Captain, the trades still wouldn't be clean for one minion to get in with the patches coming down. So Mitsuhide with the Tar Creeper knows that at least 2 minions are going in, and now we've got a level playing field. All minions will be buffed in Mitsuhide's deck after this Keleseth comes down. Is it going to be this turn, though? Because backstab SI7 agent is still very, very tempting. And
that's the problem. It's almost a level playing field, but not quite a level playing field, because Zixo already has buffed minions on the board. Just getting the Prince Keleseth that 1 or 2 turns earlier than Mitsuhide has already given him a significant advantage.
It is so impactful, but Mitsuhide still has patches in his deck. That's a payoff that he'll be able to find maybe a little bit later on alongside his own captain, or even just a South Sea deckhand coming out to trade efficiently.
So, Mitsuhide has Prince Keleseth in hand. If he can play that, buffing all the minions in his deck by 1/1, then pick up South Sea Captain, that pulls out Patches the Pirate from the deck. That ends up as a 3/3. That could be his comeback onto the board. But Mitsuhide, he's going to have to wait just a little bit longer, because he agrees with you. Backstab SI7 agent looking just a little bit too hot this turn, and he needs to get himself back on the board before he spends a turn playing a 2/2.
And you know what? There's really no way to dance around it in this meta. If one team gets Prince Keleseth and the other team does not, that team is at such an advantage that sometimes you can call games right then and there. But I have to say, I love a game that goes back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
I love a game that is actually a game. And this is a game right here.
Yeah, I mean, we were just watching the Heroes of the Storm just before that ended. And that last little push from Dignitas at the end there.
That
was very intense.
go for that last-ditch effort.
Yeah.
But then KSV came in. One member of their team getting all the way to the other side.
Right. And this game is... I don't know if I'd say that's looking similar to that. It actually looks very, very different, Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm. But this is definitely a two-sided game. And Prince Kaliseth...
There are, in fact, two sides of Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Two players.
Prince Kaliseth finally hitting the board for Mitsuhide. He's got Ken into Bone Mare over the next few turns. That's a very good set of cards to have.
Mitsuhide's mid-game is looking so incredibly strong right here. So Zixo is going to need to try and snatch this board up right now, take it wide, take advantage with a series of smaller minions that add up, whereas Mitsuhide is just going to be playing one big threat at a time going forward.
This is great for Mitsuhide. He can get rid of that 4-2 Spellbreaker. He can develop Cairn. If the Cairn sticks, then he develops the Bone Mare. These minions aren't even buffed. Just their abilities alone are enough for him to potentially grasp this board. The problem for Mitsuhide is that Zixo actually does have the means to remove this Cairn. He can drop Doomguard, get rid of the Cairn, use the minions currently on the board to get rid of the Bane, if he wants to work really hard and play around the Bone Mare, which I think he has to.
Going into turn 7, the biggest thing on Zixo's mind has to be Bone Mare. But now that he's picked up that Saronite Chain Gang as well, those both are 3/4 minions. He should also be thinking, well, I've got 9 damage in hand. Maybe I can just start to go face, put up Saronite, use it as a wall.
Okora.
I mean, Zixo is playing an aggressive deck as well, and the longer he goes on, he knows that Mitsuhide is going to find Vile Spine Slayer. Mitsuhide is going to find those Bone Mares if he doesn't already have them. And Zixo doesn't want to give him that time.
Well, that definitely benefits Mitsuhide in the meantime as he has the Bone Mare in hand. That's being slammed straight down, buffing up that Cairn, giving it the all-important taunt. And now Mitsu has the board nicely, but 2 Soulfires, if this goes right for Zixo, Zixo can do some damage here. Even if it goes wrong and one Soulfire discards the other, he can still follow up with the Doomguard. And still push some damage here.
There's a lot of variables here for Zixo. That's the nature of the Warlock discard mechanic. You're playing understated cards with incredible effects. But there is a drawback. Nothing is guaranteed.
Oh, starting with the Doomguard. This is surprising, but pays off.
He does get to keep that Soulfire around.
Why did he not play the Flame Elemental? Can't think of a reason.
There is no reason.
Nope, so that should have been played. Okay.
Simply a little blunder for Zixo, and there's the Planet Odd famous thinking pose, the head in hands.
Definitely no mind control tech in... Nope.
Nope. No.
All right, no reason
Zixo
not
with
to play
a little mistake there already. And things are still looking very, very close between him and Mitsuhide. Zixo has pushed a lot of damage, but if Mitsuhide had another Bone Mare, for instance, Zixo would be really struggling right now. So I do want to see Zixo maybe just take it a little bit slower here. Don't get too ahead of himself. Don't get upset. Just play some Hearthstone.
Yeah, Mitsu's hand isn't looking too hot right now either. The Chittering Tunneler is awkward because it deals damage to Mitsuhide's face.
Yes, the payoff could potentially be great, but you're also just maybe going to end up killing yourself.
What would he like more than anything else? An Eviscerate would be pretty good. Backstab's not bad.
No.
But
Backstab's fine,
if he gets
Eviscerate's
backstab,
fine.
the Doomguard survives. That's the problem there. Maybe he doesn't even go for it this turn.
You backstab the Saronite, Patches goes in, Bane goes into the Doomguard.
Oh yeah, of course.
And if you hit backstab off of Chittering Tunneler, you don't take damage.
Yeah, well that's a huge benefit. Getting 0 mana cards.
Yeah, normally you see the Tunneler in Warlock, of course, hitting the powerful Warlock board clears.
Gonna go with the
counter Smork.
Okay, wow. Mitsuhide is saying, Zixo, if you have 3 damage, you win.
Wow.
If you don't, I win.
That's so risky.
What is Zixo going to pick up? That's
1 damage. That's no damage. Zixo doesn't have it. And now he needs to play cleanup. So this Doomguard's going into the 6/6 Dragon.
Yep. The captain is
into
going
the Bane, but then...
Or even... Wait, the captain actually has to go into the Swashbuckler.
But there's no way that Zixo's going to come back onto this board now. The Cobalt Scalebane absolutely needs to die. Mitsuhide just has lethal present if Zixo doesn't play the trade game. But if Zixo plays the trade game, Zixo loses.
Yeah, Mitsuhide has the 7 attack Leroy Jenkins in hand as well. He's getting very, very close. And as you said, it just doesn't look like Zixo gets back onto the board. It's another game which is going to be over before turn 10, and therefore Blood Reaver Gul'dan isn't even worth thinking about.
It's been irrelevant in most Zoo games, but Mitsuhide navigated that previous turn so well, putting enough pressure on the board to represent a counter-lethal. If Zixo couldn't find 3 damage, Mitsuhide had seen Doomguard and he'd seen both Soulfires, so that was a calculated risk that he took there.
Lethal.
It's gonna pay off. Mitsuhide takes game number 1, setting up Team Celestial with already a massive lead.
Zixo has had some huge highs in this tournament and also some pretty major lows. His Taunt Warrior play has been fantastic. He took a risk, he brought the Zoo, but Mitsuhide comes out on top, and with a cheeky wink to the camera there, he is ready to face either Hoi or Surrender in game number 2 of this vital tournament-ending series.
I was going to say, I'm looking at his face, he looks very stone-faced. I know I've seen Mitsuhide smile, but that wink, that says it all right there.
Says it all.
He is over the moon after game number 1. And now, Planet Odd needs to come into game number 2 with a counter for this Rogue.
Now,
yes, at some point they're going to need to be thinking about getting a win, 2 wins in a row with a single deck. But right now, get the Rogue out of the hot seat.
Yes.
It's just too threatening.
They have a disadvantage here, and that is Taunt Warrior isn't really an option for Planet Odd anymore. The other guys, no doubt they can play Taunt Warrior, but can they play it as well as Zixo, who has been specializing in that deck for months? I don't know. We've not seen these guys perform as well with that deck this tournament, so I would consider that a disadvantage for Planet Odd moving forwards.
It absolutely is, but now you've got Surrender coming up. Surrender, who will be playing in the World Championships this year, and who 3-0'd RNG earlier today. Surrender is a phenomenal player, though his win rate doesn't quite reflect that right now.
Until today, it was much worse than this.
It was. Until today, it was looking like he was having a really bad time. But he's going to take this Warrior out, try this on for size, and say, you know what, Zixo, that's okay. I've got this one.
What is going on? Why didn't Zixo just queue this to begin with? I'm so confused, but I love it.
It's such a risky first deck to queue when you're leaving up Druid.
Right.
I think that's the thing. So both of these teams, excuse me, went into game number 1 with Rogue and Warlock because they left up Druid for the opposing teams, and both of those decks heavily counter Druid. So you're leaving up the most powerful deck feasibly in the format, hoping that your opponent brings it and hoping that you're smart enough to counter in game number 1, but they both had that game plan. That's why you don't want to bring that Taunt Warrior up first.
All right, Team Celestial versus Planet Odd. Mitsuhide versus Surrender. You're going to see the Taunt Warrior. Can Surrender get these early board clears that he needs? Can he get the Blood Razor, the Sleep with the Fishes? Can he just stem the tide of Mitsuhide's aggression? Let's find out.
And though Rogue has been the most played deck in this tournament, I would have to say that the big winner has been this Taunt Warrior. It's not just Planet Odd that brought it to the tournament. We've seen it in quite a few lineups.
Yeah.
And overwhelmingly, it's been more potent than I ever thought it would be.
I
did not think that Warrior would be a real factor in this tournament.
And if it was N'Zoth Warrior, right?
Yes.
Maybe the odd Pirate Warrior, but not Quest Warrior. That being said, I'm sure we're going to see that quest disappear any moment now, as we've seen Zixo throw away the quest against every rogue in this tournament. Oh, you don't seem certain.
I'm not certain.
Is he going to keep it?
So here's the thing.
What's the thing, Cora?
Zixo earlier today up against RNG, game number 1, brought out this Warrior, threw away the quest, ran out of steam.
Oh.
That seems to be a factor that we've seen happening time and time again. And the general consensus among a lot of the professional players seems to be throw the quest when you know you're up against a strict aggressive deck.
Right.
But this Rogue deck has a lot of late game. You're seeing some of it in the opening hand for Mitsuhide, that Lich King, the Cobalt Scalebanes, the Bone Mares. If Surrender runs out of gas and Mitsuhide, well, this morning, Zixo's opponent picked up Army of the Dead off of Lich King, for instance. Zixo had Brawl, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
There was still just too many resources for the Rogue.
Well, in this scenario, Surrender has decided to stick with what Zixo does and thrown it away. We also saw Ostkaka throw it away against an Evolved Shaman earlier in the tournament and regret it.
Came back to bite him.
It did come back to bite him.
You need to be very, very careful when you're playing against these tempo decks. Do not underestimate their late game.
Speaking of coming back to bite you, Surrender's picked up their patches.
I cannot honestly remember a game where I've seen Planet Odd play this warrior where they haven't had patches before N'Zoth's
I saw it once. I saw it once in this tournament. I remember it vividly.
Zixo drew patches this morning too. Drew patches in the Warlock game number 1. I don't know what's going on here.
Well, that's the risk you take when you only run one pirate and patches. 50% of the time, you will draw the patches before you draw the N'Zoth's first mate. And even less percentage of the time does it actually go off because you can get them both in the mulligan. You can get them both in your opening hand. These are problems that this deck faces, but obviously Planet Odd and Zixo believe that it's worth the risk.
So, Planet Odd having thrown away the quest in the mulligan means that they're not planning to win this game off of Sulfurous.
No.
They're planning to win this game by removing everything that Celestial plays on the board, running them out of resources, and then if Surrender has even one Stonehill defender left, he could probably just win the game with that and the taunt minion that comes off of it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So Mitsuhide needs to get very aggressive, but he needs to also ride that line and be very careful with his resources. Get too aggressive, then you set yourself up to get punished by Brawl, but don't put enough pressure out, and you're giving Surrender too much time to find that reactivity.
There is a slight upside to drawing the patches, and that is it will activate Execute at some point, if Surrender needs it to.
Can also be an activator for Sleep with the Fishes if you don't have a Whirlwind effect, a Blood Razor, for instance.
And the same can be said for N'Zoth's first mate later on. When he draws that, the Rusty Hook can also be an activator for Execute. So it's not all bad when you draw patches first in this deck.
No, but it certainly could be better.
It certainly could be better.
And we did see one situation, I believe it was Planet Odd as well, up against Alliance, I want to say, where this warrior went up against a Paladin. The Paladin had little to no Murloc early game, just Murloc game now, in case you weren't hip to the new lingo, and instead just won the game on the back of 2 Cobalt Scalebanes, coin Scalebane into Scalebane. Right. That was enough to win him the game.
Right.
So Surrender needs to be very wary here of these coming turns for Mitsuhide. These are some power turns. You're going Scalebane into Cairn, into Bone Mare. That's going to be backbreaking for the Warrior.
Warrior really struggles to deal with these cards as well. Scalebane doesn't die to Whirlwind Sleep with the Fishes. Bone Mare isn't particularly weak to Brawl because Mitsuhide would end up with 2 strong minions on the board and Brawl would probably leave one of them alive. There's so many weaknesses, and now Mitsuhide is going in with the Cold Blood, 9 damage straight to the face. Right now, oh boy, Surrender has to do something about this and do it fast. Blood Razor is one of the best cards, though, for dealing with things.
It does. He's got the Blood Razor Fishes, but like you were saying,
doesn't deal with the
Scalebane. The Brawl removes 2 minions, but again, you could leave the Scalebane. Well, even this Tar Creeper right now is a massive threat.
He can hit it. He can play the Blood Razor, then the Sleep with the Fishes, and then hit the Scalebane. But that does mean...
You're face tanking 9.
I think he has to do it. He has to clear this board.
And you're leaving a Fledgling. Nah, the Fledgling's dead.
Yeah.
So much damage that Surrender's having to take here, but Mitsuhide is not going to be letting up on this aggression anytime soon. He just needs to keep putting down a big enough board of reasonable threats, but not too big of a board.
It's that dance, the dance of playing against Warrior with any sort of mid-range or tempo deck, the dance we've talked about with old school Shaman in the past. How do we play around these brawls? How do we make sure that we're still going to have enough resources to kill the Warrior after the removal is gone? And for this deck with Surrender, there isn't really an after this removal is gone. Not for a long time, anyway.
He has so much removal that it's going to be quite a while before we get to that point, and notably, Surrender's now going into Curator on turn 7, if he wants it, if he doesn't want anything to be removed in the meantime, into Primordial Drake on turn 8. The Curator will then net him a Direhorn Hatchling and a Primordial Drake as well. So Surrender's going to be finding many more fantastic resources going forward just off the back of his own minion development, which is going to start to really challenge what Mitsuhide can put down as well. And Mitsuhide took a very passive route that turn, just developing a Tar Creeper, electing to hold back the Cobalt Scalebane in hand.
Well, the problem now for Surrender is we're going into turn 7, and it's the card which is pretty much the most dominating card in the Knights of the Frozen Throne meta. it's Bone Mare. If Bone Mare comes down on turn 7, buffs up that Tar Creeper, Surrender's taking even more damage, maybe he can't afford to play the Curator this turn. Maybe he has to deal with his taunt.
That's the issue, isn't it?
But
Can you afford to play the Curator and have it killed off
But
while Mitsuhide develops a Bone Mare?
He can't actually clear the taunt, so forget everything I just said. He has to play the Curator right now.
Well, he can't clear it without the use of an Execute.
Yeah.
He did have the Acolyte in hand, so he could have maybe drawn off of it with the Blood Razor Death Rattle, but the Bone Mare off the top
Incredible.
is picture perfect for Mitsuhide. Gets to hold back that Vile Spine Slayer and find the kill on maybe a Primordial Drake. This is exactly the board that Mitsu needed. It's big enough to be threatening, but it's not too big to warrant a brawl.
That's a really good draw from Surrender, though. He can now develop 2 taunts this turn if he wants to drop the Stonehill and the Hatchling. And that does defend against the damage currently on the board. It's a little bit risky because Mitsuhide could have removal, could have a little bit more burst damage, but I think that play is safe enough for this turn, if not a little bit passive.
So that's one option. Surrender can just counter-develop. He's looking at removal. It doesn't look too good, so he is going to elect just go this way. A little bit of a graphical error there with the Discover effect. We should see the minion pop up in Surrender's hand soon enough.
Hopefully, at least the result in a moment. But what is he looking for here? Maybe another Ali Armorsmith? Okay, Public Defender.
Okay,
great.
something cheap.
2 mana, puts a wall in the way, doesn't do much back, but yeah.
Ali Armorsmith would have been great. Another Hatchling maybe is okay. Additional Drakes, they get a little bit expensive.
Yeah. Well, this is good because
are very, very flimsy in the face of Vile Spine Slayer. So Surrender needs to just represent multiple defensive points of his own.
And playing the Execute meant that there's no huge threat on the board regardless, even if Mitsuhide does get through these taunts. Mitsuhide does have the Lich King, though. Maybe that's overextending, but if he did play right now, he's just seen an Execute. He knows it's unlikely that Surrender will be able to get rid of it, and a Lich King alone can just win this matchup. And any matchup.
It absolutely can if you can pick up a Frostmourne. Army of the Dead is probably the best Death Knight card that you can get because this rogue deck only runs 5 or 6 spells, maybe. Army of the Dead can often just net you 4 or 5 minions, some that immediately have charge, some that immediately buff themselves. So does Mitsu want to go with this Lich King here, or does he want to maybe take it a little bit slower? I don't think we're going to be seeing this Vile Spine come out yet. Neither of these taunts are threatening enough to warrant that Assassinate effect.
Well,
the big bad man himself.
And it looks to me...
Frostmourne. That's just 15 damage itself. Also, if you use it to clear off some minions, then Mitsuhide can develop his own. Once he chooses to trigger that Death Rattle from the Frostmourne, you can hero power over it at any time and get that summon effect.
All right. For Surrender, Acolyte of Pain, Patches, Brawl. He just has to go for the best possible scenario to clear this board. He has to win this Brawl. If the Lich King wins the Brawl, it's game over.
This is a horrible, horrible scenario for Surrender to be in, but this is what I was worried about. It's so difficult to remove everything that the rogue plays down if they ride this line so effectively between too much stuff on board and just enough stuff.
All right, it's going to take a 50-50 instead. Hold back that Acolyte. The Patches wins the Brawl. He's still in charge. Patches is always in charge. And he's just single-handedly brought Surrender back into this game. There you go, Cora. That's why you draw Patches in this deck.
All right, Planet Odd will be feeling pretty friendly with Patches after this. I will give you that one. That was a massive, massive brawl for Planet Odd there. They needed to win this one to be able to stay in this game because remember, they're not working towards that inevitability of the quest fulfillment. They will not have access to Sulfurous this game or the Die Insect hero power. So Mitsuhide still has a lot of development of his own, but now at least Surrender has a foothold back into the game.
This is a tough turn for Mitsuhide. He could play the deckhand on the Bone Mare and just keep pummeling the face.
He could also just Frostmourne and dome him.
He could also just Frostmourne and dome him.
So much damage over 3 turns with the Frostmourne. You've got a Vile Spine Slayer in hand for taunt removal. You've got the South Sea deckhand. There's a Leroy still in your deck.
Okay, gonna take the deckhand route.
Bone Mare get the damage right away.
This is interesting. So yeah, because of the patches, if Surrender didn't armor up last turn and the Lich King won the brawl, then Mitsuhide just won that turn. Frostmourne plus deckhand plus patches would have been lethal with the Leroy, with the Lich King.
So now Surrender again is in
an
uncomfortable situation. He's used 1 Execute, he's used 1 Brawl, used 1 Sleep with the Fishes.
Well, this just has to be the second brawl.
Ooh, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. No, it really doesn't. He's 1-1. Could potentially throw down that Dire Horn and Brawl. 25% to win really big there. But Armor Smith plus Primordial Drake also is not a bad line to take.
Gain some armor.
And you can run the Blood Razor into the deckhand then.
Yeah.
You will have gained enough armor to feel relatively safe doing that. You'll gain an additional 3.
Okay, gonna do that first. Dirty Rat could be played with the Hatchling just to put up an extra taunt. Execute picked up. Alright, okay, just in the nick of time there. I was actually concerned that the Drake wasn't going to come down. But there you go. Leroy is going to seal the deal.
That's just game. Mitsuhide with the Leroy off the top finds game number 2. And Planet Odd has now lost up against this rogue 2 games in a row, and now they've lost with their ideal counter deck. What are they going to bring out now? What can they possibly beat this rogue with? Or is Celestial just going to make this a 3-0 Grand Finals?
I did tell you I was a huge Mitsuhide fan, Cora.
I know. I know you did.
You can see why.
And I will admit, I'm not the biggest Rogue fan. But you can't deny that Rogue is really freaking strong.
I'm also a huge Hoi fan, as it happens.
Okay? I'm a huge Pidgey fan. Pidgey being Hoi's adorable companion.
Hoi has been a very hard worker in the Hearthstone pro scene for an incredibly long time, finally getting his big break this year as he qualified for the Hearthstone World Championship.
And fun fact, he has a twin brother.
He does have
whose name is also Hoi and looks exactly like him.
And he's also been competing in Hearthstone events recently.
Yes, he has.
Which has been quite confusing.
So there's, if it's not good enough that there's one of them, there's another Hoi, but this Hoi needs to get the job done right now, and it's going to be the Paladin. We've seen Hoi have a lot of luck on this Murloc Paladin. In general, Murloc Paladin yesterday in the series that I was casting won the game in all 5 games. It worked for different sides in different ways, but a Paladin was on the winning side all 5 times. It won the day yesterday. Can it reverse the fortune for Planet Odd here and bring them back into this series, or is Mitsuhide just going to snap this one up? Again, it's a tempo matchup. The Rogue's going to need to leverage the backstab SI7 agent in the early game, utilize that cheap removal, and shut down that Murloc synergy.
The Paladin is the only real deck the Planet Odd have left, which I would say outright has the potential to sweep everything that Celestial has. Oddly enough, we haven't seen Planet Odd's Shaman yet this tournament. Yeah. I was wondering if they'd break that out in this last series, but obviously they just don't feel confident enough in the deck, so they're just going to stick with what they know and leave the fate of the team on the shoulders of Hoi as Mitsuhide gets Prince Keleseth, Backstab, and Shadow Step in his opening hand. Huge round of applause from the tournament.
The crowd goes wild, but look at this hand for Hoi. Yes, Mitsuhide has drawn the nuts, but Hoi has 2.
What is this game? What?
This is, I don't know.
It's turn 1.
Divine Retribution.
It's turn 1, and this game is already in overdrive.
Well, okay, see, that's the thing. Normally, if one team gets Keleseth, you can say, all right, they're probably going to be way ahead.
Yep.
But with this hand from Hoi, the synergy from the Murlocs working together will naturally outpace the stat buffs of Mitsuhide's minions now once Keliseth comes down. However, they're going to be buffed +2/+2. Everything that Mitsuhide draws. Now, Sarnite Chain Gangs are going to be 4/5s.
And Mitsuhide does have a backstab as well. So the first Murloc the Hoi plays, or the first Murloc Tidecooler that Hoi plays, does just die for free. The backstab is also an integral part of Mitsuhide's opening hand. As the Tidecooler comes down, and I think everyone watching right now knows exactly what Mitsuhide is going to do this turn.
And the Tar Creeper picked up for turn 3. Mitsuhide could not have asked for more. And I'm watching Hoi right now.
I'm watching Mitsuhide.
Oh my gosh, the emotes back and forth.
Another huge round of applause from the audience.
Gross.
We all have a pretty good idea of where this game is going, but let's see what Hoi can do.
As Pavel would say, Falcone, disgusting.
Yeah, Pavel would say that.
Pavel would say it.
I've heard him say that
and
many times.
He'd be right.
In the last few weeks.
Because this is just a gross start for Mitsuhide. That backstab, if he hadn't had it, Hoi would be looking a lot better right now, but because Mitsuhide did, Hoi's first minion has been shut down. He's got the redevelopment, he's got the Rallying Blade for 3, but he needs to find the follow-up now, and everything that Mitsuhide draws is going to be +2/+2.
Not the Cold Blood, though.
Yeah, it's kind of a whiff. But still.
But the Tar Creeper is more than enough to just put a stop to everything Hoi has at the moment. Hydrologist is one of the better draws in Hoi's deck. He could even consider taking Repentance just to counter the +2/+2 buff that the next minion that Mitsuhide plays has.
And there is one important factor of Hoi's Paladin deck that we haven't touched on quite yet, and that's a copy of Consecration. Normally, that would be incredibly potent against Rogue. Now, however, not so much. Maybe used in combination with a couple of minion trades on board for Hoi. He could find a board clear with the Consecration later on. But there is that note that if he picks it up at any point in time and just needs that as a clear, he's not going to be able to find it.
That's true.
Getaway Kodo, Repentance, an eye for an eye. Getaway Kodo's fine because he doesn't have a lot to do in the coming turns, but Repentance could allow him to fight for the board a little bit longer in the early game.
Yeah, I'm still leaning towards the Repentance, although it's not regularly the secret that you would pick from Hydrologist, especially in this matchup, but there it is. Hoi knows what he has to do to win this, but can he get there? And as you said, Consecration's been a great tool for Hoi, but when everything's got +2/+2, it doesn't do anything, and Salsi Deckhand, it's going to pull out the patches as a 3/3. Oh boy.
Anything that Mitsuhide picks up now, I think will elicit a roaring response from the crowd, just because every minion in his deck is stupid good.
Gotta point out as well, the local crowd here, they are cheering on Celestial. They consider,
yes,
although not all of the players from Celestial are from China, they all speak Chinese, and therefore they're sort of considered...
They're the hometown heroes.
They're the home team, right? So this is exactly what the audience here wants to see. It's what Derek wanted to see. And if it means Mitsuhide sweeping, it's kind of what I wanted to see too.
Is Mitsu going to drop this cold blood here and just go for all-out aggression? I imagine Tatches is going into the Vile Fin. Mitsuhide tested for that noble sacrifice with that dagger swing first.
Disgusting.
Although it is going into turn 4, that's Blessing of King's turn, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see Mitsu clearing both minions here. And he wants to keep this deckhand around. Never mind, he doesn't care about the deckhand. He'd rather have a more resilient board because Hoi does have that Consecration in the deck. So that looked like a last-minute decision there by Mitsuhide to play around the Consecration. And Hoi is left stranded. All he has is Rallying Blade, but he can't clear off the Tar Creeper with that Rallying Blade. He's going to have nothing to stay up for Spike Ridge Steed, nothing to give up for the Bone Mare on turn 7.
Consecration just does nothing now in this matchup anymore. There's no true silver champion, no way of getting through this 7-4 taunt. Hoi just needs to sort of wait around and maybe eventually get to play the Spike Ridge Steed and the Bone Mare, but in the real world, he's not going to get to turn 6.
How's he going to stick around any minions on this board? Mitsuhide has the board lead. He can clear off anything that Hoi puts down while still developing his own pressure. Anything that he draws realistically is playable now other than Bone Mare, Lich King, and Cairn.
Oh, well,
okay.
It's not important right now, but later on it could be.
It's a bit of a whiff right now. Maybe we'll give Hoi a little bit of breathing room because Mitsuhide can only develop the Vile Spine Slayer this turn, and it's not buffed.
This is good, though. It means Hoi can't deal with Vile Spine Slayer. So for now, it just sits around, dealing 3 damage a turn. When Mitsuhide needs it, Shadow Steps it back, pops it back out again.
Okay. That's actually not horrible, because Hoi now on turn 6 can go Chum Coin Steed.
It's not good, though, is it?
Hope you keep that Stegodon around for Bone Mare, and then you've got Tyrion on 8. This is the best sequence of events that Hoi could have found. But Mitsuhide's just got 13 damage on board.
Yeah. Hoi just kind of... Did you see that little sly smile from him there? He knows exactly what's going down this game. And sometimes in Hearthstone, the cards are just dealt that way.
Okay,
Hoi didn't have a chance here.
5, 8, 11, 12 on board. 13 max with a Shadow Step on patches. This is just... It's not over yet, but Falk, I think we may be crowning a champion.
3 champions, in fact. But Mitsuhide being the real power
Mitsuhide better be getting that trophy, because he made this one look easy.
Hoi plays the Spike Witch Steed next turn. It looks like just the obvious play, the one you described before with the Chum as well.
Only play he's got.
Mitsuhide can just bounce back the Vile Spine Slayer. Even better, hit it in first, then bounce it back. Deal with the Murloc with the Edwin, then Vile Spine the Stegodon.
Yeah, so look at this.
It's just lethal, isn't it?
Vile Spine in, bounce it, patches. Or wait, it's going to be, Vile Spine in,
Edwin.
bounce it, Edwin in.
It's just lethal.
Kill off that Stegodon. 9 damage. Mitsuhide. He's going to count it once. He's going to count it twice. He's going to count it 3 times.
We've each counted it once. I think I've counted it twice.
Okay.
I think
3. Bounce. 4.
Vile
Assassinate.
Spine.
5, 8, 9.
9.
Yes.
Yeah.
The math checks out. And if he wants, he can draw some cards.
Okay. Obviously, Mitsuhide hadn't spotted it.
All right. Let's count it one more time. No, we're wrong. It had 4 attack.
Oh, that's right. Wow. But now there's a Lich King and a Bone Mare in Mitsuhide's hand. Apologies for that. The Vile Spine
We just tunneled so hard.
We did. The Vile Spine
can't trade in, and then we Shadow Step back.
But it just doesn't matter. Hoi knows he's dead. Mitsuhide takes the tournament for Team Celestial.
Talk about a showing from Mitsuhide there, and a blunder from us, but hey, it wouldn't be a real Hearthstone tournament if we didn't do something wrong, so I'll call this one a win all around, but especially it is a victory for your GCWC champions. Mitsuhide, Tom, and Tiddler have done it. They made their run through the winner's bracket, facing some really powerful opponents all the way. They took out Evolution, they took out RNG, and now they've taken out Planet Odd. They are your 2017
Congratulations.